So, how many of us in the past dozen years or so have picked up a ukulele in order to add a new voice or color into our playing? Well, a lot of us. Now, how many of us have actually taken the time to understand the instrument and have made an effort to actually become a ukulelist? And you know what? It's not as hard as you may think. In fact, we can put our guitar knowledge to work for us. So let's discuss a practical approach to transitioning to the ukulele from the guitar. Hey everybody, welcome to String 'em Up. My name's David Holland and I do in fact have a ukulele with me today. So let's jump into some fresh territory. So here's the reality. If you can play guitar, you can already play the ukulele. It's that simple. Well, really it's not. There are some things that we'll need to address, but quite simply, we already physically know what to do. So there are two ways you can participate in this video. One is to grab your ukulele, or if you don't have a ukulele, get your guitar, remove your low E and A strings, slap a capo on the 5th fret, and you now sort of have a soprano, concert, or tenor ukulele. And the reason I say sort of is because the D string, which is now a G, because remember we have a capo at the 5th fret, is still in the same octave relative to the other strings. On the ukulele, it's what we call a re-entrant string, which is simply a fancy schmancy French word meaning essentially tuned an octave higher than usual. Now, don't worry about tuning the G string up an octave. For the purposes of this discussion, it's not that important, so feel free to leave it in the standard octave. So now, as far as our fretting hand is concerned, notice that if we simply play as much of our standard chord shapes as we can, and remember, we're now 2 strings fewer than usual, we can still group them into sets just like we would on the guitar. For example, C, F, G, or we could go G, C, D, or we could even go A, etc. So now that we're capoed, what does this do to the names of our chords? Well, simply, all of the chord names move up 4 letters. In other words, G now equals G, A, B, C. D becomes D, E, F, G. A becomes D, so forth and so on. Now, even though our fingers should be fairly confident making the chord shapes, it might take a while for the transposed chord names to lodge firmly in your brain. And keep in mind that transposing chord names to the ukulele won't make you forget the chord names on the guitar. You're just simply learning an additional skill. So notice I'm back to the ukulele. We've already talked about our fretting hands, but what about our strumming hands? Well, you can feel free to proceed just as you would on the guitar. Any strumming pattern you know on the guitar will work. And heck, it's even legal to use a pick. However, I think that generally you'll get better sounding results without a pick. And here are 3 different suggestions for learning how to strum with your fingers. Number 1, index finger. Simply use your index finger for alternate strumming. Your nail hits the string on the downstroke and the flesh of your fingertip hits the string on the upstroke, which adds some variety and texture to your pattern. Option 2, use your thumb. It's the same as using the index, except the nail and the flesh alternation inverts. And option 3, use your thumb and your index. Thumb for downstrokes and the finger for upstrokes. And this method usually produces a mellow timbre as both strokes hit the string with the flesh of the finger only. Now the advantage to this technique is that it feels very similar to playing with a pick. Now personally, I prefer the index finger method. So if we've forgone a pick altogether, can we finger pick on the ukulele? Well, you bet. But remember, even though the mechanics, the right hand mechanics are virtually the same as on the guitar, the results can be wildly different. Remember, because we have a re-entrant string, our thumb is no longer playing a bass note. In fact, the experience is a little like playing a bluegrass banjo with a high drone string. The fingerpicking pattern I like to use on the ukulele are the Piedmont blues style patterns. And I won't go into the Piedmont style here in depth. Maybe that's a topic for another video, but I'll give you the gist of the pattern if you'd like to figure it out. And also, 4-finger classical guitar arpeggios work very nicely also. Or even things like Now, if you're a guitarist who hasn't already joined the ukulele club, well, why not? The ukulele is extremely portable. I almost always have one in the car. And it's also great for sneaking into birthday parties, or as the holiday season approaches, it's ideal for accompanying carolers. And if you're worrying about funding another instrument purchase, don't sweat it too much. You can find a decent, not necessarily a great, but a decent ukulele in the $50 to $75 price range. Also remember that ukuleles fit small hands very well and are an ideal way to get your children, nieces, nephews, younger cousins, etc. to get excited about music. Well, that's about it for now. Now, I do plan on doing some more segments of ukulele for guitarists a little bit later. And one of those will be aimed more toward classical guitarists when I can figure out the proper way to present it. I also plan on doing a supplemental video to this one, and it may be a while, so keep your eyes peeled. Remember, like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the channel's content. Comments and suggestions are always welcome. So be careful, stay safe and healthy, and drink lots of water. See you next time. Bye.